them to just forget about the result. What's done is done. Move on. This is Clubhouse now. This is a new game. Let us focus in and get this win.
And on a map like this as well, I think for Cloud9, you're not going to be doing too much complaining. It is one of their go-to maps in APAC. Admittedly, a lot of the top teams in APAC are like this. Giants are the same. And I think about Cloud9 and the things that they can do on this map. Hopefully something with a bit more structure, less arguably exposed angles from outside the map as we had on Coastline, which they were getting bitten by more often than not in those rounds, comes back to help them here. Cloud9 bringing out the exact same banners on Coastline. It's going to be that Habana against Mkers. Clearly something they aren't too bothered about being without for their attacks here, likely because you'll see them step towards something like the Maverick for dealing with those hatches.
Yeah, pretty stock standard so far. Cloud9 going to take Maestro out as well. We did see... I don't know if that's just in response to that one round we saw. Gemini managed
MB Taylor is so triggered.
He's like, I am not playing against Maestro again. No way.
Get the strat book out. I'm choosing this ban, boys. It's the way it goes. Valkyrie also coming out, which was also a ban by Mkers on the previous map, which maybe suggests they want to play a little more aggressively, don't want to deal, at least when they're on the attack, with the extra information that comes out. With the Maestro and the Valkyrie banned away, I'm keen to see if something like an Echo starts getting brought along, because suddenly IQ is now considerably less valuable given that the Valkyrie is taken away, and the only real reason you have for bringing the IQ is literally to deal with an Echo. So we'll see if it comes along in that sense or whether we'll see something entirely different. Looks to begin with, it's going to be that level of different. Gym and Bedroom to kick things off, the Monty being picked away, changed over to the Mirror, and on the other side it is the Monty that's going to be stepping away for MV Taylor onto something else. Please don't make me add any more words, MV, just pick the goddamn operator. It's going to be the Ace stepping out. So actually the same as what we saw from these boys in the groups. They really love running this triple hard breacher setup.
So, I mean, we'll see how the round pans out, Des. My concern there is the Cloud9, they had this choice there, Des, that was unpredictable. That was something Mkers might not have dealt with too frequently. The Monty coming in there, it may well be something that they haven't had to deal with too much, especially not from a side who are very familiar with playing behind that sort of setup. As it is, they've picked away from it, and we've got a reasonably standard lineup. Like you say, they've got the triple threat of Hard Breach, they've got Maverick, Thermite, and Ace all available attacking onto Gym and Bedroom. That's going to give them plenty of utility for breaches. We should see, and if we don't, there's a problem, we should see the Hot Tub Wall open. We should see the East Breach open quickly. We should see the Logistics Wall opened up if it isn't already by the defenders. You know, we really need to see this multi-angle attack here from Cloud9. If you're going to bring all that Hard Breach, you got to use it.
You have, absolutely. And I think you're touching on a very key point there. It's like playing a puzzle game sometimes when you're on Clubhouse, and because you know that Mkers are defending inside a cache and CCTV, you need that East Breach open. You need to force these players out of this area of the map. Otherwise, they're going to sit here, they're going to watch that west window from cache that looks, CCTV that looks all the way across the south balcony, and suddenly your attack is forced to go through Jacuzzi and to go through Logistics. Very predictable for Mkers, and they're the ones who can deal with that sort of setup. So rightly so, Cloud9 are going to kick things off here by getting this East Breach opened up inside about 45 seconds, and all 5 members, it appears, are committing themselves out towards this East take. Don't want to split off just yet, so all committed towards making this happen. But I'm watching the clock here, Ace. If it takes them more than like 90 seconds, arguably max 2 minutes to get this done, it's going to sting. And things, okay, that just, yeah. The doors on the plane are still open, right?
So Lolo manages to get the opening kill there, pops up from behind.
I'm baffled.
I'm just going to move on, Des. I'm just going to move on. Lolo manages to get the opening kill there, popping up from behind the deployable shield at the top of cache stairs. Gets himself a second onto MV Taylor. There was an unfortunate team kill in there with a nade as well. A nade that I'm sure would have been intended to clear out the deployable shield from behind which Lolo was playing, and this is a round that has gone wrong quickly for Cloud9 here. 4 versus 2. They've got time. That is one thing that is on their side. Harper is going to rotate, and we've also got Shayo moving underneath the map on the Zofia, but there's nowhere safe already. He's gone through basement and he's being challenged from top floor.
I don't want to talk, Ace. Carry on, please.
So, 50 seconds left to go. Shayo gets put down by Gemini, and that leaves Harper with a fraction of health. He's going to give a few hit points away as well as he jumps over the balcony there and will take some fall damage. It matters not as Gemini uses the Vector to find that final kill, and that is another Mkers round. And very unfortunately for Cloud9, Des, this one starts out as Coastline finished, and Mkers, they looked dominant.
I'm just disappointed. I have no other words, honestly. Pushing in blind to the guy on red, running into a grenade, contesting. So I just don't know.
It's and the again, thing we've got to say, Desi, this is not the Cloud9 we're used to.
That's it. You are the shining light in my life, and you will always miss the positive. So I feel like I have to balance it out sometimes and play bad cop, because that is such a messy round. Again, like you said, this is not the Cloud9 that we are used to seeing in APAC. And look, I completely get it again. You've travelled halfway around the world. You've gone to a different city. MB Taylor was tweeting this morning saying he was feeling a little bit homesick. Maybe the boys just aren't having a good time out here. That might be what it comes down to. It sounds like a really weak excuse because...
The nade was dropped, I think, as Nova was killed. So Nova gets killed. We've got to forgive the mistake. It's not a mistake. He's gone in cooking the nade to try and clear out the deployable shield. He gets dropped as it happens, and the game mechanic is that the nade goes...
It drops on the floor, you walk over it, you can die. I get it. It's still just incredibly messy and scrappy, and it's painful to watch, but again, some lean given. When we see them in APAC, this is not the team we're used to. The one thing that makes me sad is, like, you know, let's be real about this. A lot of people will say, oh, APAC weakest region, they can't compete with other regions. And for the longest time, we said they can. We've seen what they can do, what some of the teams coming out of there can do. Cloud9 being one of them, Giants being another. We know they can do great things. And both teams here, I feel, have had a rough time of it. We didn't have wildcard, unfortunately, as they couldn't leave Australia due to the COVID-19 restrictions in the country. And it's boiled down to what we've seen here. Cloud9 being the last hope for APAC, stepping up and not quite having the best game yet. I'm hoping we get to see the flash of brilliance, and I said this over the weekend. Maybe with the weekend to recover, we would see something special coming out of them. But so far, Mkers, as the underdog, are showing they're the ones with the sharper jaws, and they're the ones biting on hard.
And that's the key, isn't it? They're just absolutely locked on at this point. There is no moving Mkers. The thing is, Des, right now, Mkers, they smell blood in the water.
Yeah.
They know that there is a big matchup lined up for them in the next round of the Six Invitational. They've got TSM in their sights, and they're excited about it, and they want to progress. They've got that wave of Italian fans behind them, urging them on, and they know that. You know, these players, they're not silly. They see the social media. They know what's going on, and they'll know that they've got that huge wave of support from those passionate fans behind them, and they want to deliver the performance to go with that, to reward that support, and they want to give them those big matchups. They want to see them play TSM again. They want to test themselves against the best, and so you give them a sniff of that like Cloud9 are now, and it's going to be very, very difficult to try and take that away from them.
The whole underdog story that we always love peddling is so true for a team like Mkers and also for a team like Parabellum. We spoke about them already, their defeats, or their victories, I suppose I should say, over NIP and SSG on day 4 just screams of what teams that you look at and go, oh, they're not going to do anything here. They're bottom of the pile. They're not going to be able to beat these big teams that we've all seen all year long in NAL and EUL, for example. Turns out some of them can. And Mkers right now are definitely doing a tour de force and showing what it is they can do. Round number 2, we go into a more conventional site, stepping downstairs. Gym and Bedroom making good use of that first round of a game where you have all 4 sites open. You can do whatever you like. You can try and bait the other team into thinking you're going somewhere that you're not. And finally, I mentioned it earlier on, are we going to see the Echo, I said, because the IQ I don't really think has enough value to pick here to deal with just an Echo. Apparently, Cloud9 agree. They're sticking by the same setup once again. Let's see if they can deal with the downstairs defense coming out of Mkers.
So we've got the Echo on side, as you say this time, Des. We'll see how that factors in. We've got the mute of Akui, and we'll see. I don't know if there's going to be a top floor presence or not. We don't have the Mozzie alongside it, so not necessarily enough information denial to really commit too much to the top floor, but I think we will see. Let me put it this way, I'd be surprised not to see a roam presence up on the top floor. Because why not at this point in time? Mkers, they're having the run of the show, Des. They're finding every advantage inside of gunfights. True. So why not get somebody up there and just challenge for a little while?
The only reason why I wouldn't be super keen with the setup is normally you rely on like a mute and a Mozzie combo with someone then supporting you on the ground floor so you can retreat downstairs. Otherwise, the attackers can just cut off the stairways. They can have someone watching the hatches, for example, force a bit of pressure on the top floor and send you flying back. And I believe that's why you're going to see Scato just beelining it straight back to site there. Got himself a drone and now has pulled himself back. And that is often what you'll see a lot of air quotes roamers do. They're not really looking to go hyper aggressive around the map and sit in a corner and wait for someone to run past them. What they're actually waiting for is to pick off a drone and then retreat back downstairs onto site and be happy that you've reduced information, because the attackers have to re-drone that spot again in case you're still there. It's almost like one of the kind of staples of good Siege in a way, where you could sit on site with 5 men, you're not going to achieve much there, get out and kill a couple of drones early on, and then get yourself back on site, and there are absolutely no problems.
Cloud9 moving well so far. A minute into the round, they've got the kitchen hatch open. I think they're fairly confident that there's nobody to cause them any issue up on that top floor. Now, Nova will need to be careful. He's going to drone himself. That was my hope there, because Sasha has been playing inside of that dirt tunnel, as we see on the smoke. So the challenge could well come here. I think Nova's keen to have a look, but no, he's going to dip away for the time being on the Maverick. There is maybe more work that needs to be done, although goes back to have a second look here. No, he's pushing in, Des. He's committed to this. He's looking to see if he can get them that early pick and get them the advantage here now. Sasha pushes forward, pre-fires. He's just going to dip back. I think he knows that the pressure is mounting onto him, especially as the drone comes, but this is his position, Des. He can play the shotgun here. In comes the nade. He just dips back, pushes forward, and there you go. It's CQC. Des finds the kill with the shotgun onto Nova, and that is Cloud9 throwing another man away there and unable to get the kill. That's the Maverick gone, and there's going to be no hatch opening for him to do today.
I think they got most of them, given the fact they do bring this triple hard breach and there's no Kaid on side, or at least being brought along here. Maybe you ask the question after that, Jaban, why wouldn't you bring the Kaid? It's probably because you're just expecting the Maverick would be committed to the right areas if there was a Kaid, so why bother in the first place? But I think you're right, 9 times out of 10, you are not going to win that fight against the smoke. He's going to take your head every single time with that shotgun. They've opened up the Ash Rush wall here, I think, just to try and confuse Mkers. I think there's a push coming in, and then have rotated the way down to Moto instead. Shyle looking to do something. Default cam still left up, now finally been shot out. Smoke's coming through, and there's a plant going down here. Not quite in the default spot, but very close. Akwi going hyper-aggressive, and there is zero cover. They drop down through the hatch, but it's like raining kills coming through here for the side of Mkers. They absolutely clean Cloud9 up. Not a terrible attempt, but sadly not enough cover for the diffuser. Forced their hand. They had to drop down through the kitchen hatch, and that never is going to end well.
Solid play from Akwi there. I think he recognised the danger that diffuser was potentially going down, so just aggressed underneath the kitchen hatch there, took the risk and got himself one down, stopped the plant occurring, also got a kill as the second man dropped the hatch. Finished off, but the damage was done to the Cloud9 attack at that point, so another good defensive showing from Mkers there, again having the answers to what Cloud9 tried to bring to the table. Heading into round 3, and Cloud9, they're in danger of finding themselves on a complete successful defensive rotation. We are, of course, on a 2-round rotation for the sites, so if you're a little bit newer to Siege, what that means is when a defensive team wins on a site, such as they just have done on Church and Arsenal, they need to play 2 rounds somewhere else. Win or lose doesn't matter, but they need to play 2 rounds away. So by cycling through 3 sites, each time you win one, you move on to the next. It means you can then go back to your first choice site.
You know what I realised earlier on, Ace? I debated you, I bamboozled you, and I lied to you. And for that, I apologise.
Not the first time, Des. It's not the first time.
Definitely won't be the last. Mkers did not play against TSM on Villa. It was on Clubhouse. I'm confusing Parabellum and Mkers because they are the 2 underdog teams. But Mkers, when they played against TSM, I've just recalled it. Do you remember their smoke rush? Where they smoked out inside box 2, rushed their way down hallway. Akwi vaulted over a shield, killed 2 people. It was a beautiful execute coming out of Mkers. They had a man go through Ash Rush wall, drop the plant, swing back round to hallway, kill a guy who was inside Church. They completely turned TSM upside down and gave them no opportunity to respond. Mkers look good on this map, and I've only just really remembered it coming into it again, thinking it was Villa they played on, but no, that was Parabellum. So my apologies on that one, but Mkers are definitely no pushover here. If you can bring down TSM quite comfortably, I think it's fair to say that Cloud9 are going to have the run of the mill to be able to stop them from succeeding here.
The beauty for Mkers, Des, not just inside of this game, but inside of the tournament, is I get the feeling that as much as, you know, every team here is going to be taking Mkers very, very seriously. You know, there's no 2 ways about that. Their performances dictate that. But ultimately, they're unlikely to ever be seen as the favourites.
Never.
So they get more and more powerful as the tournament goes on. And I don't mean that as any sort of slight to Mkers. As I've said, you know, I'm loading praise on them. They've done extremely well so far. They're an entertaining team to watch. They're very accomplished at this point in getting in, taking advantage of weaknesses and turning rounds on their head. It's been fantastic to watch. Static, he finds a nice kill onto Akwi to start things out for Cloud9 there. But ultimately, my point there about Mkers is they get more dangerous as this tournament goes on because they gain more experience with every game, they gain more confidence with every game that they win, and yet the expectation externally of Mkers is each time going to be it's a bonus if they win. So, you know, there's no pressure on them at that point. Now, we found ourselves effectively 5 versus 3 here as Lolo is down. Now we can see Sasha just moving and challenging, and you really shouldn't be getting away with picking him up in that position, Des. They've got to, Cloud9, get a little bit more aggressive there and try to move in and take advantage of that sort of situation. Static ultimately does that and manages to get the kill onto Sasha, leaving Lolo now on about 20 health. Closed down by his own man as they try to make the challenge, but that's not the end of the world. I think that kill, or death rather, was coming anyway. Scato shut down off the garage catwalk, and Cloud9 just seemed to have the run of things all over the map there, Des. They had a good handle on where all those Mkers players were, and they were just finding angles onto every single one of them. Mkers just seemed very exposed inside of that round.
Yeah, much better coming out of Cloud9, a lot more structure, good with the kills, and even though that one kill did come back from the Pokeball, I think either way it turned into a 4-man left at the end, so almost a flawless round. And we spoke a little bit around Mkers earlier on and about the team. I think the crazy thing when you look at it on paper is I look over their histories as players. The most notable scene they've been on is Ghost Killer. And unless you're in Europe and you're into the Challenger League and the regional scenes there, chances are you probably haven't even heard of Ghost Killer. Just for them to be on an international stage like this, like they barely attended a LAN in their life, this is no doubt the greatest LAN they'll have ever attended. And think again about, one, the weight that puts on you. And you know you've got some regional fans back home, but for teams like TSM and G2 who come here and know that there are orgs with big expectations, there are fans with even bigger expectations back home, you come here and if you start doing poorly, that expectation and weight and pressure is going to build on you. For Mkers, that isn't really a thing because no one expects you to do well. And that is why, again, we love rooting for an underdog, because there are no expectations. So when you do well, it's always better than what everyone assumed would be achieved in the first place.
Round number 4 then, and we see Mkers once again going to Cash and CCTV. We've got Lolo downstairs reinforcing the garage, Scato just setting up, and Sasha opening the rotation at the top of Cash stairs there. Gemini looking to apply some utility possibly out on the construction and master side. So it looks like Mkers are going to be very aware of the potential for a west-sided push, which wouldn't be completely out of the ordinary for Cloud9. Nova making some immediate progress in towards the building, very cautious of the garage door which has been opened, doesn't want to get caught out with an early spawn peak. It is the absolute last thing that Cloud9 need right now, and the east wall has been electrified. We're going to see no doubt quick progress made onto that. It should be short work for Nova on the Maverick as he starts to open things up with the blowtorch. He'll just give a little bit of extra juice to that central strut there that will get it to drop away, and then he'll get himself on the upside down rappel to open up the other end. The reinforcement will shed itself off the wall and it can be opened with a simple soft breach. Now Scato, he's holding down here. I'm not sure if he's been picked up by that drone or not, Des. It won't have been easy to see through the debris and the hole in the wall there, and if they're not certainly aware that Scato is playing there as the Kaidi, could well have some joy as they try to move in through this soft breach.
I think slowly drawing their way back as well. Again, it's just about wasting a bit of time, and once you know that utility is being committed, drones are coming into you, that risk increases that you're going to get pinched, because Cloud9 can start taking positions, they can cut off your rotate, they can do something as basic as getting on the construction window and just waiting for you to run past and looking to get you down. That's why they had Gemini standing nearby, being ready to provide assistance if that requirement for a trade or a gunfight did come through. But like all sensible teams, again, you waste a bit of time, you waste some drones, and killed 5 so far, you get yourself back on site and you feel happy with the time and resources that you've already drained.
Harper quickly established inside of master bedroom, then still half of the round to go. We can see the construction wall has been left soft. Something that I first saw coming out of the LATAM region last year was leaving that construction wall soft rather than reinforcing it. It just allows the man playing in behind the bomb chassis to challenge all the way through into master bedroom. Makes it more difficult for the attackers to get established in there. But we do have an opening kill coming in for Cloud9. Once again, it's going to be Gemini on the Goyo this time that goes by the wayside, leaving us 5 versus 4. 50 seconds left to go. Cloud9 making reasonable progress here, Des. They've got 3 established on the master bedroom side, including Harper pushing right up onto the CCTV window. So things are going to start to get a little dicey inside of sight now.
Indeed it will. I mean, Cloud9 has shown already on Coastline how the time, or the clock even, isn't exactly their friend when it comes down to it. They stole themselves out a little bit, have to go for a final second push, and that can really come back to bite them. So let's see if they can make the play happen here. One being opened up from below to remove that shield from below, I imagine is the play. Absolutely. 20 seconds remain, but you still got to worry about the smoke here with 2 canisters left. He can waste a hell of a lot of time. They've got to make the push though. 5 versus 3 and 10 seconds still to play. Sasha collects one. Another smoke canister comes out. The last one is deployed. Nova is inhaling that gas. He gets put down as he's forced into an unsavory position. Harper finds one. Scato one back. They're out of time. They've got to plant right now. They start committing, but Charlotte and Nova are both down. This round is over yet again. C9 throw away a massive numbers advantage and lose the round.
Coming down to the clock largely there, I think, Des, the time was ticking away, and Cloud9, their options became limited simply by the sand running through that hourglass. It was a matter of having to get in and get somewhere to put the diffuser down. There was a couple of agonising moments for Cloud9 there where we have the privilege, the ease of seeing those outlines on the screen, of course, that the players don't, and we could see how there was a number of occasions where with just another second or two on an angle, Cloud9 potentially pick up a kill that might just have broken the round open, but it was not to be. Mkers, they close it out again. No fear, no panic from them when they go behind in numbers. Happy to play on the site and just waste that time as much as they can, giving them a nice lead now, 3-1 coming into round number 5, and they're going to be heading downstairs to Church and Arsenal.
Those are the kind of rounds that as Cloud9 you really need to win if you want to be making it through this lower bracket. If you want to be beating out big teams, again, remembering the TSM wait for whoever wins this game tomorrow, you can't be making mistakes like that, because when I think about it, TSM are one of the best C4 using teams, I think, in my mind. Just when you feel you've got them beat, you force them back onto site and you're going for a plant, they've still got 2, 3, 4 aces up their sleeve of plays they can make, C4s they can deploy to completely knock your socks off. And that's exactly what they'll do tomorrow if Cloud9 was to leave things that late going through. As it stands, Mkers at 3-1 look to be the team stepping forward in that instance. They're not going to be too worried about it. If they keep on pressing on like this, we'll see how their attacking half goes, because that's where the question mark will stand. But we've already seen how they have literally zero fear in pulling the trigger on Clubhouse against TSM already and just completely blitzing their socks off.
15 seconds in then, Shiol with the drones, just checking into garage there, so we can potentially expect a little bit of pressure to come towards blue later in the round, but Shiol for now just feeding information back into his team. Lolo is out on the roam here in and around garage and lounge, so just looking to potentially protect those hatches, waste a little bit of time. He's on the Jaeger, so I'd expect him to be the man that's playing in behind the generator in blue corridor. Akwi going to drop down again, just moving through towards site. Just very cautious roam, Des, from Mkers. Not over-committing, as you've said, just looking to give themselves options to return. Lolo and Akwi just playing very tight here on the blue stairs. Certainly no more than 5 or 10 seconds away from site at any point in time. Sort of a semi-roam almost.
Just the lack of pressure from Cloud9 as he retreated back through the map there about, 45 seconds in baffled me. Like, why wasn't someone on main door hoping for a drop from the top floor consulate hatch? Well, consulate construction even, sorry, confusing maps here. Why wasn't someone inside a garage looking to cut the lounge rotate? Arguably, yes, you had Lolo hanging nearby, didn't want to contest it so soon. Maybe they saw him on the drone and didn't want to step in too aggressively. I get it, but you would have thought that would have been a golden opportunity for a team that's a little bit more pacey and able to get in position a bit faster to potentially catch out someone who's hung around a little bit too long.
Envy Taylor's taken a lot of damage in the early proceedings there, down to about 20 health, maybe slightly less, so he's no doubt a bullet away from death. Now then, here we go, that's a freebie for Akwi. Can he get himself a second? The red dot might just give him away there from his laser sight. He has to dip away as the challenge comes in from Shiol, but that is a big start for Mkers there, Des, and you've got to ask about the droning of Cloud9. Were they aware of that man or not? I'd have to argue that they had no idea that the mute was in behind there. There was no pre-fire from the Maverick of Nova whatsoever, and he's been very sharp today, so I would expect if he'd known he would have won the challenge. Now Shiol looks to put pressure onto blue corridor, trying to move the man from in behind the generator. Will be unsuccessful for the time being. Scato gets that nitro out and in hand on the pulse. His heartbeat scanner feeding him information that there are enemies nearby. Now then, Shiol just going in there, taking the bait. The Jaeger of Lolo just teasing him there, sticking his gun barrel out from the generator.
He's going to know there's two in here. He's got both of his impacts in back pocket as well. I'm kind of confused as to why they're still there. Like, you've got 15 seconds to play with. That should be being used. You're going to get swung on your left, but you get swung on your right at the same time. That's all too easy. Such a messy pushing. Gets shut down for it. Envy will find one, but I'm 90% sure we know how this round ends, Tim. It's going to be another rollover by Mkers. I asked that question again, 15 seconds left, and you've got two crucial bits of utility that can help you in this fight onto the Jaeger are still in back pocket.
Very, very unfortunate at the moment, but Mkers, they are giving no mercy here, Des. They're in no mood to cut any quarter for Cloud9 right now. There will be none given, and I'm sure none asked, but Cloud9, they're going to have to find something, Des. They're 3 rounds away from an exit from the Six Invitational 2021. We're, of course, in the lower bracket knockout stage here, so there is no second attempt. There is no second life here. Once you lose, you are out. You are done. And Mkers, they will be the one to move on for that fight against TSM in the next round. And Lolo just moving around almost at will, getting kills there, Des.
You know what kind of makes me sad looking at it? It really reminds me of the Dark Zero game earlier, where Cloud9 just look a bit checked out, where there's not really any big attempt to drone. There's no pace in their attacks. They are holding on to crucial utility. It's like there's no real heart in what's going on. And I don't know, again, if that's because they feel a bit homesick, they're just, not really feeling it right now. I'm not sure. But it's definitely not looking, again, like the Cloud9 that we're so used to seeing dominate other teams in APAC. Heaven knows, I'll no doubt have a chat with some of the players later on and find out what was going on. But as it stands, Mkers at 4-1, one more round, they switch half. I'll be very surprised if this doesn't end at 5-1 for Mkers and they then go on to win the next 2 subsequent rounds.
I mean, we're not even seeing Cloud9 come out and dominate the entry, Des. That's something that has been so synonymous with them. But right now, it's 3 entry kills going to the side of Mkers and only 2 to Cloud9. So they're not even getting themselves that early round advantage. Now, round 6, this will be the final defensive round for Mkers here. They're going to be looking to close out what has been a very good half for them on Clubhouse once again. They are in gym and bedroom, which is the site that we saw them defend back in round number 1. They were successful, of course, with Lolo opening up the action with a kill onto Nova back in that round. Just after about the first minute or so, I'm sure Mkers will be looking for a repeat of that to get themselves a nice advantage. Now, Cloud9 don't look like they're applying too much immediate pressure to that east breach this time, Des. If you remember, they got it open very quickly last time. Static downstairs. Maybe a little bit of information that there's been a Roma playing down there. It doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. So whatever Mkers have done, I think they've probably scurried away from down there if that's where they were initially stationed. But one way or another, it's wasted the first minute.
I think he's just about skirting around the default cam, finally going to bring it out. Maybe part of them was hoping that a Roma would be forcing their way downstairs at some point.
Oh, nice shot from Static.
That really stung him in the earlier rounds, but that was a nice shot. Scato acknowledging as much, and that's 2 kills coming in for the side of Cloud9. Suddenly, the lights have turned on. There is definitely someone home, and they're looking competitive. But Tim, we've seen them in a 5 versus 3 before. We've seen how these rounds can go. I'm praying with 100 seconds on the clock and a 5 versus 3, they can take this round over the finish line.
Gemini just on the main stairs, holding the angle into Bar, and it pays dividends as he finds the kill onto Envy Taylor. And this is something that we've seen all too often, Des. Cloud9 get themselves a man advantage or even 2 men advantage in a round and then are just brought back and back into it. Now then, we get the mirror window opened there. And that is not a bad move coming in from Cloud9. It's just going to force Sasha to potentially play a little bit more cautiously than he might have done otherwise. He's going to hold on to that Nitro for the time being. He's aware that they are probably out there on that balcony. He's just waiting for the push to come on. He's actually getting quite aggressive up towards that breach. Just
on that drone so bad.
He's certainly not giving up this position, is he? 45 seconds left to go. And Cloud9, come on, let's not stall out. You've got the man advantage. Time to start pushing in.
I mean, you know what you can do with the shotgun as well if they try and get too close here. First, they've got to survive the C4 and then the shotgun, plus potentially the SMG at range after seeing what that can do already today. In come the nades, which normally signifies this attack coming forwards. And yeah, right call to bring out the C4, but not going to connect. A second kill lands. That 5 versus 3 has become a 3 versus 3. Those 100 seconds have become 20. And for Cloud9, it's slipping away from them again. It's Gemini finding a triple. One more across to Lolo. And like that, Cloud9 have again lost a round without killing a single man from a command commanding 5 versus 3 position with 100 seconds still to play. They just cannot piece together an attack here, Tim.
The problem for me, for Cloud9 here, seems to be the site itself. You know, they're going in there, they're fighting with the roamers. They're not, you know, coming in there at a massive disadvantage. They've got themselves 2 kills to begin with there. They've earned 2 good kills at that, especially the second from Stat. It was an absolute beauty up through the ironwork in the floors there to get himself that kill. But ultimately, when it comes to pushing onto site, when it comes to playing into that defensive utility, that is when the problems seem to start for Cloud9. They're quite happy playing in and around the rest of the map and chasing roamers and getting kills. It's all about getting in there and thinking about getting that diffuser down, thinking about getting map control over the site itself. A real problem in the end game for Cloud9.
Maybe for Cloud9, and this is just theorising about the kind of historical state of the team in the future state, this is one of their first times at a big, well, it may well be the first time at a big international event like this. They've done a lot regionally. We mentioned how as little as 18 months ago, they were a team still working part-time at a fast food restaurant whilst just being paid a few pennies to play Siege on the side part-time. Now it has become more of a full-time occupation for them, but again, one of their first chances on a big international stage. It's all experience they'll develop. They'll go home, they'll think about and work on, and under the new Tier 1 structure that we have in Siege, think about the majors they can step into in the future after Stage 2, for example, after Stage 3, and what more they can start doing at those. Although this is looking like a sad ending to their time here at SI, I am still excited about the future prospects of this team. Can't wait to see them back in Stage 2 and see them back at full form. Would love to see what they can do at a major sometime, because I know that day will come when they will surprise a lot of teams. Just sadly for them, it's not today and not last week.
And I mean, that, you know, that's the key thing to remember, Des, as we've said countless times, is every team that has got here has earned their place, regardless of individual performances that they might show us. Yeah, you know, this hasn't been fantastic by Cloud9 by any means, but can I go back and show you fantastic passages of play from Cloud9 at Invitational?
God, yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah. Of
course. And every team has made its mark on this tournament. Every team has got here for a reason. And as you say, Des, they're part of that whole process within Siege, the share scheme of getting your skins out there. Of course, you know, we've got a reduction on those at the minute, Des. 20% off while
steal
Invitational is on there, an absolute steal. I'm going to have to go and get 1 or 2 more. I've got a lot of the Latam ones.
Of course,
it's probably not too much.
Tell you what you want to see. You want to know if a caster's got bias, just go and look at what Pro
League skins they've got. You'll find NIP, Furia, MIBR, you'll find Liquid.
I've got BDS.
You'll find all of those on my account. To be fair, you'll find plenty of EU and NA as well. There are some beautiful ones to be picked up. But back here in round number 7, the matter at hand could be closed out very, very soon. Mkers coming in with a 5-1 half on the defence. It's now their turn to attack, and let's see if Cloud9 can turn their fortunes on its head, Des, and see if they can get the win here.
Absolutely. Well, they've got this mute Mozzie roam set up, but Aqui straight in here. He doesn't care about any kind of mute jammer or any lack of information, but Nova cares about those SMG headshots. We spoke about it a little bit on Coastline when he picked up that 4K, 2 kills in towards pool entrance, swung around for a kill elsewhere. The man was just a living frag machine at that point, and here he's going to shut down an aggressive play coming out of Aqui in true Mkers style. 4 versus 5 for Mkers then, and bearing in mind we have switched sides, they are the ones on the attack. This is where you might see Cloud9 come to life.
Nova just biding his time there, but gets gunned down by Envy Taylor. But the silver lining there is Des that he manages to get in and get the kill onto Gemini as well. I don't think it would have been forgiven had he not managed that. 4 versus 3, and the advantage does go to Cloud9 on the defence here. They scramble to get back to site, and that leaves Mkers fighting into Church and Arsenal short-handed here. Scato does have the diffuser in hand, so that is a point to the credit at least. Harper, he's just waiting for the potential of relocating that electrical, but here we go. The kills start raining in Des. Sasha gets his way into sight. Can he find 2? He's got 1 down. No! Shut down by Shiol on the boxers. That's going to be Cloud9 taking their first defensive round, and a good defense it was.
What I really love about Mkers is their pushes into downstairs on Clubhouse are always so explosive. They're never a team that's going to take it slow and just poke and prod and then go, I guess we drop the hatch here and hope for the best. No. So many times you'll see them storm down main stairs, they'll break open the Ash Rush wall, they're straight in, they're going for a plant, someone's rushing down hallway trying to pick up kills. It can be an absolute delight to watch. For Cloud9, it's a small lifeline being thrown their way. It's 5-2 to Mkers, still a little bit over-aggressive arguably from Aqui at the start. A good shot, admittedly, coming out of Nova, but you still look... That's kind of where he just shrugs at Nova and goes, collateral damage, bro. Like, the guy's dead, that's what counts.
Yeah, this is, you know, if you're teaming with a gunner, sometimes you've just got to accept that they're going to gun through you as well, if it means that they get the kill. But ultimately, you know, there was nothing lost there. They managed to pick up the round. So had it gone differently, you might have been asking a few questions, but not the end of the world. We've just got a quick rehost that is going to be coming in. We'll get all the players back into the lobby ASAP, and we will continue on with this one. But Cloud9 able to pick up their first round in the last 4 days. That stops a run of 3 rounds in a row for Mkers, and just maybe digs Cloud9's heels in, and they can start to turn this map around and get something out of it, even if it's just a close game, Des, even if they can just take it to the distance at least and make it competitive. That is what they're going to be aiming to do here on Clubhouse, and maybe the defense is all that they need to do that. They've had the opening kill in the last couple of rounds, round 6 and round 7. Envy Taylor and Nova picking both of those up. Nova pretty quick last time around, and Envy Taylor with a 3k as well. So there is certainly glimmers of hope there for Cloud9. We'll see as this one progresses whether they can pick up any more rounds or not.
Just a little fun one on the side. I had a message from Fresh who said to me, I've been casting. What the hell's been going on? What are these results? And I think if you closed your eyes and turned away, you wouldn't have expected this coming in today. Like Empire, for example, losing out. Who on earth would have ever predicted that one after their incredibly dominant group stage? Dark Zero, 2-0 by Furia, your boys in the heart, being thrown home as well. Dark Zero were the first team eliminated. It was madness.
Look at it this way, Des. I think coming in, it would be fair to say, I'm not going to say out-and-out favourites because it's a dangerous game with the 18 teams that we've had here at the SR. We've had a lot of talent and a lot of good teams, but I think you would have to argue that if you were going to name favourites, BDS and Liquid would have been very strong contenders in that discussion, Des.
Oh, yeah.
And after match 1 on the A stream and match 1 on the Bravo stream, BDS and Liquid were both down into the lower bracket, and that is all you need to know about how today's gone. It has just been, you know, surprise after surprise, and it's been a very difficult day to call on the whole.
I mean, look at it on paper as well. Like Empire lost 2-0 to Oxygen. Empire being one of, I think, 2 teams. I think them and BDS going 8-1 in the group stage. Joystick reactivated, long have we waited, all that good copy pasta that you guys love. But Oxygen showed that despite the one poor day they had in groups, they can be a very dominant team, the same as they were in NAL Stage 1. MIBR 2-0 in Liquid, BDS losing 2-1 to BDS. Both of those first 2 series going all the way to the 3rd map, the 15th round, by the way. It was crazy. And FaZe then 2-1 in TSM. The LATAM dominance, I think, is amongst us, Tim. Much to your delight.
Well, we'll see how it goes. There's absolutely no bias here, Des. You won't find that. I am equally behind all of the regions. I just want to see some wonderful Siege.
I love how you say that to me with a wry smile on your face.
Well, no, I was just about to pick up on Oxygen, as you were saying there, and I was just going to say why they are such a dangerous team at the minute. I've spent, you know, through my life growing up, I've followed a lot of traditional sports as well as esports in my sort of later life. But
not like 70 years
more
old.
present, more sort of current present life the last few years that I've been involved in esports. But through that traditional sports, I've learned a lot of things about tournament play particularly, and that is that form is extremely important, and you can have the best team in the world come into a tournament, but if they don't find form over those 5, 6, 7 games, it is all for nothing. And it is the team that can be 4th, 5th in the world that comes through and just finds that nugget of form at the right time, and it makes them unstoppable. And Oxygen have potentially just finding that vein at the minute. They've come through, and as you say, yes, they had a bad day in the groups, but then they've flipped it on its head and they've taken a really solid result today. And I start looking at Oxygen and just thinking, boy, they have got some very dangerous momentum at the minute.
If they go on to win the whole thing, man, surprise. No one ever really put them down to win, so you'd definitely be one of those. Talking about this round a bit more, you're seeing the mirror window being deployed on that east wall, by the way. Not one we've seen for the longest of times. Used normally to help with something like tricking, but given there is MV playing on the Bandit, you'd hope he'd find something. Not going to have the chance to here as both walls were opened by the Ace, or at least planted with a Selma in quick succession. So much so that both of these are opened at the same time. Sasha now sat there on rappel saying, well, I thought I was going to have something to do this round, but apparently not, since they made it so easy for us. C4 coming out, hoping for the doorway. That was very
that's a new one.
placed. I like it. Gemini is down, but not out in this case. War getting self-res back up, but I'm sure that one's going to sting in the morning.
Static puts his arm behind that one and sends it all the way from the catwalk straight out of the door and manages to find the down. Now Nova, he will get a kill onto Aqui, and Cloud9 just waking up here again inside of round 8, getting themselves that opener. Gemini on low health as well, and they are looking dangerous. Shio just holding a tight angle there from the garage door onto the external single door. He's going to play inside of lounge for the time being. Knows that there's a man on Repello looking to approach that blue stairs window there, but he'll just dip away. He's going to be challenged from the main door. Needs to get himself out of there really before he loses his life. Static will be downed on the catwalk, and that is about the best thing to happen in this round so far for Mkers. Lolo, he manages to find Nova, and that leaves us Des effectively in a 3 versus 3 at this point, and Shio is on low health. Things are starting to go from bad to worse for Cloud9 here, as Sasha, he finds a kill onto Envy Taylor with the nade, and this is not looking good. Des, 2 versus 3 effectively.
Cloud9 and throwing 5 versus 3s into the gutter. Name a better duo, because it's all exploding. Charles brings one back at least. A 2 versus 2 steps in. C4 comes up from Harper, connects to no one. Sees the spray and gets Sasha, though. Maybe this one they can rescue. Lolo swings in, doesn't see the man on the ground. He's looking the wrong way. That's a triple kill, 30 seconds left to play. Does he know where the last man is? Because Shile is creeping his way up red. I think they know in this case. Doesn't see the angle, but Shile! That should have been an absolute sitter for you, my man. But Mkers, they make it happen in round 8. They go up to match series point, and again tournament point for Cloud9. They lose this next round. They're out, Tim. It's job done and done.
Lolo there with a nice health advantage. We've got to give him that. It was 100 HP versus about 20-25, so always an advantage inside of that fight. He literally needed to find one bullet onto Shio there. A little bit unfortunate because Shio had really dominated that lounge area and managed to get himself a nice kill and really brought Cloud9 back into things there. But ultimately Mkers, they were not rattled, Des. They were able to find their way over the line there despite that early nitro toss coming off the balcony, which you're going to see here. Oh, look at that. Tell you what, there's going to be a few people trying that in ranked, me included, because the challenge on the garage door is something you just like, for some reason I always seem to lose out on that reverse angle, so if I can launch a nitro out there, it's getting done.
Nice shot coming out of Charles as well, and this was that infamous moment, the 1 versus 1 that we saw melt against them here as well. Lolo finding the first one, and stepping in against Charles as he steps around the corner. Does Lolo lose any HP here actually? Does he get shot even once? No, he doesn't. Doesn't even get hit by Charles. So 1 HP or 100 apparently isn't going to make a massive difference. Potentially into the last round of this series and of the day, because then both series are completed, and it looks like tomorrow we will have G2 versus Parabellum first thing in the morning, and then we proceed with the rest of the games for that day.
Round number 9 we head into. This is going to be match point for Mkers. We're going to need a serious turnaround for Cloud9 nowadays. There are no mistakes left, no opportunities here. If they want to continue in the Six Invitational 2021, if they want to see themselves moving on in the lower bracket to take on TSM, they're going to have to win here. They're going to have to win the next round, the round after that, and a few more as well to get themselves into map number 3. Mkers, of course, if you've only just joined us, did win on Coastline, so this is everything for them. This will get them through. This will move them on to a rematch with TSM, which after their win in the group stages, I'm sure they will carry some confidence into.
Worth noting, of course, at the top of your screens, you have an overlay, and those red stripes, the one currently, well, there's only one, the one right next to Mkers' logo, indicates they have map number 1. So if you do find yourself tuning in all over the rest of this week, you will know what those stripes mean. It means that team has won the prior map. And it even tells you to the right-hand side, there's a nice little addition. One, what map we're on. That's what the little red line across the top highlights. And the score on the previous map, showing it was a 7-2 to Mkers. Outright dominance there. It's looking to be a 7-2 on Clubhouse here. And this will sadly go down as one of those games that Cloud9, you would wager, weren't hyper-competitive. A few rounds that could have come close, but sadly given away from, again, those 5 versus 3 advantages that we keep on speaking about. But let's see how things proceed here. 1 minute 45 still to play with. And for neither side, no early engages. But we've got Envy lurking around, looking to cause some trouble on this Frost.
Scato looks to use that Selma to open up the wall, but it is going to be impact tricked by Static. He goes again, but won't be able to reach down to the very bottom of the wall where Scato would place that second Selma. So the low hole there should force anybody out of construction. Envy Taylor just opening up a couple of bullet holes. I think he's aware that there was a man playing in and around Lounge, but as it is, Sasha, he's dipped away. He's going to get himself upstairs and look to move over, no doubt onto the hot tub wall, I would guess, if he's rappelling up onto the roof there, taking the diffuser with him. So Envy Taylor, he's not going to have any joy in the main lobby in the bar area. He's going to have to move himself, which we can see he's now doing. He's just crouch walking over towards those main stairs. He will at a point decide that there's going to be no challenge coming in from downstairs and will look to move and get himself back up to site.
You've got to watch out because Scato's already got the angle in this case. That west breach has been opened up. He can see the main stairs from here, and as soon as Envy tries to crawl his way back up, he'll be greeted with it. So if nothing else, I'd say just lurk here. Maybe they could even try a pinch. If Akwi gets him from below, they could cause some trouble, but Shyle completely isolated inside of Jim. I think forced to move away by the breaching round, gets himself taken down, and there's Envy. It's what I was thinking of. Let's not try and go for a direct push back up main stairs. Let's try and find something else we can do. And apparently running into Garage because it wasn't being covered by the members of Mkers will help him find a single kill. Sasha Akwi with a lovely shot onto Static. A C4 coming singing out. 3 versus 3 with 15 seconds to play. Time waits for no one though, Mkers. It's time to make it happen right now. There's 2 kills. There's 1 man left alive. It's Captain Envy. He will find one, but can he do it all? With so many shots, he's drawing a line around Gemini rather than into his body. Scato going in for the plant. I don't think there'll be anyone to stop this one going down. No, there will not, unless he can pull off absolute magic and get the quad. This one is done and done. There it comes! Envy with a big 4K. We'll keep the boys in the round, get the defuse off, and they'll hang on for 1 more round.
Got to find his way back into Jim. He spots that diffuser ticking down, will be able to disable it, and what a round from Envy Taylor there, coming in with a huge clutch moment to keep Cloud9 fighting here, Des, keep them involved in this one. I tell you what, they can't rely on a play like that every round, can they? Des, they can't allow Akwi to play on the south side windows like that. He got himself one before he jumped into the map. He then jumped in and got himself another. Had he not been so focused on getting that default cam, he'd have killed Envy Taylor as well. You got to be careful of that. No presence in CCTV at all for Cloud9. Nearly cost them the round there.
Just goes to show where the small things can come to cost you in a way. Like Envy was ignored. They initially put a bit of focus onto him, and then after a while chose out, forget about it. Let's go and open things up and start pushing for the site. It's not worth chasing shadows for the next 2 minutes. And Envy strikes pretty big. Once from the main stairs, once inside a garage. Comes up big in the late round with that 2K as well, coming out immediately after the plant. It's a good way to suspend the team's involvement here, but I think if you're on Mkers, you just say, right, if you're trying to play quite ratty, bring along a Jackal, bring along something to deal with this roam play coming out of C9 and see what we can do. And stepping into this next round on the downstairs defense, it looks to be another pretty big roam setup coming in, this time with the Mute and the Mozzie, which is what I thought was missing, at least for Mkers earlier on in their defensive half.
Envy Taylor just grabbing the hatches at this moment in time. He's on the Mozzie. Now, we've got the Mute as well, so we'll see whether Cloud9 commit to this top floor roam or not as the round progresses. I think they need to be careful with this one, if I'm honest with you, Des. I think so far Mkers have done a good job of going in and challenging the roamers, although the last few opening kills, 3 out of the last 4 have gone in the favour of Cloud9. The last round itself was actually Lolo onto Shyle to open things up, but Cloud9 maybe just feeling a little bit of confidence in that early round, but the last thing they need here is to be losing 1 or 2 men on the top floor. So whilst I'm not suggesting they shouldn't be out on the roam, I think they just need to play it cautiously and play for time more than anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, time has been the big subject that we've spoken about in a good number of these rounds, how it's forced mistakes out, how there's been very little time left. That is a beautiful shot out of Envy. Sasha, not even a headshot coming off the back of that one, but it's enough to put him in the dirt, that's for sure. And that, no doubt, should put Mkers on a bit of a slow burn now, knowing that you don't have the Maverick. You are facing off against a Kite on the other side. You are going to struggle to get some of these crucial hatches open at this point. So to my mind, this should be quite predictable for Cloud9. You know they're going to have to force the way down main stairs or through one of the hatches that haven't been opened up or haven't been electrified, sorry. Or you look towards something down through blue, maybe dirt, but kitchen hatch at the very least should be safe.
Just a little replay coming in there. Whoa, an absolute beauty from Envy Taylor there, just spotting the man on the rooftop and shutting him down. And it is an important kill, Des, because we've also got Akwi going from the kill as well. That's Ash off the board. But more importantly, you mentioned the hatches. We've only got Scato now capable of opening hatches, and the Ace can only open one. 2 out of 3 Selma devices are required to open a single hatch, so it is going to completely limit them to just get in the kitchen more than likely now. Envy Taylor, he's on the crouch walk. He's keen for more here, Des. I'm not sure if he's been picked up by the drone there. It doesn't look like it. We've got the Book of Lolo just looking to approach that door there, and he's not prepared, Des. He wasn't looking in the right direction. There was no way that he was aware of Envy Taylor's location there. Envy doing exactly the right thing, dipping himself downstairs. Look at him, he's challenging players all over the map here, taking chip damage left, right and centre. But Scato, he's the one to find the kill onto Envy. 4 versus 3, and we have got a round on our hands.
This is basically what we criticised Cloud9 for not doing back in the first half. Not having a man on the main door to contest them as they rotate down. Beautiful setup from Scato, and although he does take a bit of chip damage himself, he definitely wasn't in a bad spot there to do the damage that was required. More of these goo mines starting to be chucked out here, and contesting a C4 comes out, and Scato wasn't quick to react enough. His ally was, but still it's a 3 versus 2. Mkers got to make something happen. There's 2 of them at the bottom of main stairs. I said how much I love seeing their pushes from here, but this is where they might stall out.
Mute Jammers just preventing those Selmas from detonating, so it's going to be a case of pushing in through the single doors or potentially the Ash Rush spot on the wall. What a kill from Gemini, finding Static through the chair there. The debris not slowing him down in the slightest as he finds that long-range headshot. 2 versus 1, and Shayol, he just answers back with a kill onto Gemini. 2 versus 1 here, and we're being treated to a masterclass right now in the long-range kills. Shayol finds Lolo, and that's going to be another Cloud9 round. Are they fighting back, Des? Can they do this? It's 6-4, and they're starting to reel the Mkers back in.
Mkers just getting a little bit lax, I think, in the early round and being taken out by these cheeky kills coming out of Cloud9. Something that we spoke about a lot last week for some teams. Play the disruption game. Get up in the face of the attackers. I don't mean literally, it can just be at long range, but give them something to think about early. They lose a crucial member or two, like the Maverick there. A good number of those hatches likely aren't getting opened up, given there is a Kaid on side, and it's going to sting. That was the first opener. The second one here from Shaw being a little bit closer. Akwi was down dealing with the goo mine, and thankfully that sound cue helping him out in that spot. Scato trading out Envy as he tries to rotate back downstairs. Some real cute stuff coming out, to be fair, overall, but for Cloud9 it is all stall and delay tactics that's also netting them kills. As long as they can keep this up, Mkers will feel stretched, but I rue the round when they manage to bring a bit of order to it, whether it's a Jackal, whether it's something else coming along, or as we're now seeing on our screens, a Monty coming out for Akwi. That's a bit of a change away from being an Ash main.
It certainly is, and it could be a big play here. Of course, the APAC teams being the teams that tend to make this move, Des, that tend to bring along the big shieldy boy to try and close out rounds. But
chonky boy.
It's going to be Akwi this time, bringing along the main man Montagna to try and find the round that Mkers need. 6-4 here. They've been reeled in with 2 rounds so far from Cloud9, who are now finally fighting back and making a matchup of this one here, looking to push us into a 3rd map before they get themselves removed from the Six Invitational. They are fighting as hard as they can right now. Static, he's down there chasing drones, manages to find himself a kill before getting back up onto the catwalk, where he will establish himself and lock in for the rest of the round.
I'm looking at the comp that they've got here, or the setup they've got coming out of Cloud9, and I'm thinking, doesn't really strike much confidence in dealing with the Monty. You look towards the smokes, sure. C4s,
tried it again.
I guess they help, but yeah, he's really loving these at this point. I think maybe a little bit too much, as that's now been taken out. That would have been 1 or 2 or 3 of your crucial tools to deal with the Monty if he does come running up the catwalk. It's been a long time since we've seen that kind of meta where it was Legion versus Monty on the stairs, for example. The Monty tries to get onto catwalk, force a player on their back further, rather than trying to nade him out, which has been the go-to meta for the longest time. Interesting, given there's normally a Wamai in the meta as well.
Scato can see that the wall is electrified there. Out goes another Nitro. As you say, Des, that's 2 Nitros used to no effect now. And if Akui can make himself a nuisance inside of this round, they could well find themselves, Cloud9, wishing that they had those explosives available. Bandit batteries will be cleared out, so the mirror is likely now to be cleared away and the East breach opened. And here goes Akui as he starts to push himself onto the bottom of the catwalk stairs there, just feeding the information about Static's location in. Just applying caution at the minute. He's certainly not rushing himself in there. I think he was just letting him know that Shiol is playing down at the bottom of Garage, but I don't know exactly how aware they are of his exact location there. The Maverick is being very careful, Des, and in comes the challenge. Shiol's going to take a lot of damage. He's going to have to dip away into Lounge, and Akui now is going to be free to start really bullying Static and pushing the Kaid back.
That Monty is such a bully, giving all the information, I think, of where Shiol was trying to contest behind the motorcycle, so he knew how much could be the Maverick. This is how much could be opened up, how much he could challenge from there, and knew at the right time to stop, get off, bring out the M4 and look to challenge onto Shiol as he was trying to peek on forward. They're getting more of these angles opened up here, just looking to force members of C9 back. I think Grenade's going to come singing out. Shiol, he had absolutely no hope, no knowledge there. Now it's Akui, still stood here being incredibly patient, waiting for the assistance from his teammates. I think Sasha stepping over, another grenade in hand, that sings up on top. Is it going to be enough to kill Static? But he's taken down to about half HP. We're seeing the Lukid style vault over, but sadly there's no 4K to be collected. Lolo putting Static in the dirt, and now we step into the final 35 seconds or so. You've got the Monty, and you start thinking, okay boys, time to get this wall opened up. Let's start thinking about that plan.
Well, they've got control from East Breach, Des. They've got control of Catwalk. They've opened up access to the default plant spot in behind the server stack. So realistically, Makers should have everything they need to start pushing in here. But of course, there is still a Nitro in hand. There are still smoke canisters. Now, the Nitro will find Lolo, but that won't stop Akui from going in and getting the diffuser down. Essential cover from Sasha onto Harper there that allows Akui to plant. He can stand back up, get the shield out, and as you say, Des, that should be it. That should be the story completed here as Makers. They are now 3 versus 1. The diffuser is down and active. There's going to be Italian fans going wild in the chat tonight, Des, because Makers, they have won. They progress in the Six Invitational 2021, and they will face TSM.
For Cloud9, for APAC, the journey ends, but for Makers, the dream continues. TSM, a rematch I know that so many of us have been dying to see since their initial face-off in Group B last week. Commiserations, of course, to Cloud9. Of course, they made it through to playoffs, and that itself is worth commending. And I really do hope we see them step back up into form at the next major. But for tonight, it's all about Makers and a very impressive performance.
I would agree, very impressive indeed, Des. And as you say, our commiserations, of course, go to Cloud9. You have been a fantastic part of this tournament, much like the other APAC counterparts that came along with you. You have played your part. We've had fantastic entertainment from you. And boy, have you shown us some real skill and ability at times. But unfortunately, you couldn't do it tonight.
Let's throw over to the Des then to get their thoughts on this matchup.
Fratelli d'Italia, dov'è la vittoria? La vittoria è qui, a Parigi. This is the victory today that Makers take home for the first time ever. Italy victorious at Six Invitational and beyond just the bottom of the runs. The first time ever that we get to see South Korea versus Italy, and they progress. What a wonderful story for the Italians.
For the Italians. Yeah, and
You point.
they played a wonderful game today. I think that's the sort of, boiling it down, is their game was solid. C9 were trying to dig themselves in. They started to at the end of that club. We started to see some more life from them, but it was just with the momentum that was already sort of with Makers. It was a bit of a tough situation for them.
This round, so beautiful though, the ones that the replay come in now. First of all, that grenade just perfectly read on the player coming down on the bottom. And I just want to say as well, that plant, just an odd position to go for it, but it was one that wasn't really expected by Cloud9, and they weren't able to deal with it. And at that point, it's a Monty that is just standing there. No one is going to peek you. Yeah. They're holding back.
Monty, window, and balcony rappel. That is bullying 101. All you have to do is try to win a 1v3 against them with an SMG-11. That's not going to happen anytime soon, is it?
No, not in really this sort of segment. It was just, for all the compliments we give Mkers, I think what we've seen from C9 is it's these little moments of like, this is why they're here, but they just couldn't quite catch up to, I think, some of the pace that was being played.
There was a point where, especially in this game, where they actually started working on the problem that we saw earlier on in the group stage, which is we get the early pick, we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
They were close, but Mkers were closer.
That's it, Ryan, and it is still something that is very Cloud9. They do get a lot of opening kills, and unfortunately not having the high percentage on conversion yet, but that is something that they will get through with experience, I would dare to say. It's been a while since we've had international events, and they go back to APAC now, they go back to APAC North, the stage 2 is coming up, they get to practice on this phenomena and then make sure that they implement what they've learned for the next majors.
I certainly hope so. This is going to help them a lot in APAC North. They've been dominated in APAC North, but that's online. That's in best of 1. It's not the same as being on here. Of course, nobody has realistically played internationally over the past 16 plus months. So it is a test for everybody that's coming in here, especially for teams in a region that historically has not had as much experience in these big events, despite the fact that Cloud9 as a squad is definitely one of the most experienced teams in that region.
It's one of the tough elements of how everything has sort of affected the global scene of Siege is we started very separate and then everyone started getting a bit together. We started having APAC as a region, which structurally and geographically is far removed from a lot of the places. It's always the toughest thing about bringing a team up there is your scrim experience, your weekly experience, practicing and training as a team isn't the same as other regions who have, dozens of tier 1, tier 2 scrims a week. It's a tougher thing to organize in the region because you can only really organize it with all of your direct competitors, which not everybody wants to do. This is their experience and their chance, and it's something that Giant said, even though obviously it didn't work for them, to have so much scrim time out here was something not used to, but it's a big benefit and it's going to kind of roll back in. It was a rough start because we've had 15 months of not having that experience. We've just got to start getting those gears moving.
All right, let's have a chat then with Mkers. We've got Scato on the desk there on the opposite end of our huge hall, so let's bring him up and have a chat. Buonasera. How are you doing, Scato?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you.
So happy to have you here. It's your first time ever as Mkers in here, but it's the first time ever for Italy competing in such a huge event ever. What do you have to say to the Italian fans, and what does it mean to you?
I mean, I hope we can make Italy proud, and for me it's like a dream because it's such a dream to participate in such an event, the event, and I don't know what to say. It's amazing.
It really is. Well, Hap, do you have any questions to go in detail with Mkers?
I guess my biggest curiosity is you were able to take 2 massive wins against 2 big NA teams, including the reigning champs. Which did you feel was more satisfying? Which gave you that moment?
I think against SSG it was the best victory, but I think NA teams are more predictable and they play a lot more structure instead of, like, for example, Brazilian team. So I think for us it's easier to play against North American teams.
Yeah, and then I believe you are going up for a rematch with TSM now.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that? Do you think you guys can take them again, or will it be a bit more difficult compared to the last time around?
It's gonna be a best of 3, so the best team wins. But I think we have a chance to beat them again.
All right. So do you see yourselves moving forward here, Mkers? Is it gonna be as tough versus TSM as maybe it was today versus Cloud9?
Definitely, yeah. They're a good team, and we will see how it goes.
All right. Congratulations, Cato. Anything you want to say to the Italian fans out there?
Yeah, thank you all for the support on the socials. It's amazing to represent Italy, and the support is too much almost.
Well, there is never enough, especially on your first time. You're making headlines here, and hopefully you'll be treated back as champions as you move on in this tournament, no matter what happens in it. That said, Scato, thank you so much for the interview.